Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Sir Stephen Topham Hatt the Third, at your service. We're going to talk about my great uncle Cossey and Bunting. Now, a lot of you may think, what the hell's going on around here? Well, I'm going to explain it in one bucket for you, right? A lot of you are still asking questions on the extended parts of my family, which is true. On October the 19th, Cossey died in 1934. Now, this Cossey was um, well known to the community, well known in Reetham and well in Reetham Station area, of course. And my great uncle's brother, Robert Cossey, is what his name um, was friends with the family, of course. Even Herbert was that as well as my great uncle Herbert, and they basically worked. Herbert worked down a bit further down the line, but my Cossey that I'm going to talk about is Robert Cossey that died on October the 19th, 1934. Now, a lot of you are asking about where does this Bunting side of the family come in? Well, I will explain this because it's a family to a friend connection, right? So you have to be realistic on this because this is reality. This is no joke. This is true story from many years ago. It's during the first generation era, right? Which is everybody understands, right? With my great uncle Herbert being down further down the line, my great uncle Robert, on the other hand, before he died, due to certain death, which I will mention on this because it's a true story. It's no BS. There's nothing. It's true story down the line. No joke whatsoever. Right? Robert Cossey was going to marry a young lady in his time period. Right? He wanted to do so much. He worked for the railway, like always, or the Northwestern Railway Company, or the M&GN as they call it those days, and established the fact that there's one thing in common, right? My great uncle Robert was a bit of a gambler, right? So if you think of Kenny Rogers, the gambler song, that's the first thing that will come into your head. Normally, an instant record, right? The Cossey family are well known in Lemwade, regardless of the situations in the time period that was in, right? My great uncle Robert was really well known, but he was going to get married. But this woman will not be mentioned because I'm not allowed the liberty to say because she's a close friend of the family, which no longer exists. This is why the Cossey family no longer exists. Right? I explain why. Right? When you think about Robert Cossey, right, as a railway man and the person he was, right, he was going to get married to this lovely lady, but now it is just a friend of a family now. Um, Robert Cossey came back, probably a little bit drunk after gambling, probably because he wanted to make the wedding a little bit more efficient and everything else, right? So on October the 19th, the big risk happened. The actual tragedy happened, right? And the Midland and Great Northern Joint Railway at that time are at liberty to help with the finances of every employee they have under the belt, even myself, the Hatt family in general included. Right? William Marriott may be in charge of that department of that railway system, but upside down, it's the Northwestern Railway Company, which is run by my family. So we work, me and the Marriott family, because we are friends of the family, connections of the family. Right? So Robert Cossey went back to the station. That was early morning, I think it was, very late, and it's very dark, as you know. And he probably was drunk because he lost a lot of money because through gambling, trying to get the better wedding service, if you like to call it. It's very hard times, not the easiest times to follow by, right? He put his neck on the line, on the railway line, and then what happened? Through his head was beheaded from his body through a passing train. As example, not a thing I should be talking about online, but there you go. It goes with the territory. Right? The train went right through and cut off his head. Boof. So basically, the body was just there, the head just lay somewhere else. Right? In the end of the day, right, regardless, I know that part of that family branch, and it's probably, and also my great uncle Herbert's brother in general, right? After October the 19th, 1934, the funeral arrangements had to be done quickly, right? No buts or ifs. It had to be done instantly, right? Unfortunately, knowing my intelligence and my skills right now, in general wise, that when I found out through the M&GN circle, the Middle and Great Northern Circle, at the time, said, "Here's your information," and I got a copy of the actual death certificate. Right? They classed the police cl- made the case closed. Why? Because the damage was done. Right? In the olden days, you could get away with a few things which you cannot do today. Right? So, realistically, then Robert got buried with the unmarked grave in Lenwade. No name, no dates, no nothing. It was a complete unmarked grave. No whatsoever. But that happened on the 21st of October on my great uncle Rob, my great Herbert's birthday, which is not a nice present to have. Seriously, it was that blunt. I said, look, Herbert Cossey was a man that had to do his job to the best of his capabilities, regardless of what happened to his brother was unforgivable, right? It wasn't Herbert's fault, it was down the line, right? And he had to bury him on the 21st of October in 1934. Quick, right? No joke whatsoever, right? So what happened? Then everybody asked about the Bunting side of the family, which is where the connection is built, right? I found the Bunting side of the family quite quickly, and this is many years later now. This has gone beyond that. Herbert moved to Rayborn, found my great auntie Molly Piggott, which is my grandmother's sister, would I put it respectively. So Molly and Herbert got married, bang, right? And then had all Herbert could do was basically sit down and raise somebody else's kid, right? So I could see the mistake before it happened. So this is why I said I need to have to correct that problem enormously before it gets out of hand. We don't want to repeat the history that happened before. So I will explain why. Hold on. So Herbert moved to Rayborn, got married to Molly in August 1963, and then basically lived in Wellsworth under my grandfather's protection, obviously. So top of that, the first, and then worked with him and acknowledged that. Boom, boom, boom. Here we go. But that's not the case. The other case that I'm bringing up is that there's another individual in play, right? Herbert really had a thing, if you will, that explains everything in every direction, right? The Bunting side of my family, right, is part of Elder William Bunting, right? He worked at South Lynn Station at what you call Vickerstown, right? Bang, right? He did his work, while the funeral went on, obviously during the past. But in the future, as it progressed, right through the beaching area, he was the last guard that went to Kirk Ronan, right? So he went to Kirk Ronan from Southland and gone straight down as a guard. Nope, right? So he did his job to the very end, right? I well now add 2 to 3 generations later, you got me, right? In my prime, Stephen Hatt, myself, obviously, been before Stephen Topham Hatt the third. You now starting to acknowledge that I've started to pick up the pieces as it goes forward in time, right? As it goes forward in time for me as a third gen Hat, I'm getting clues and puzzle clues through all my family, not just the Lynns, the Coopers, the Hats, the full whack in one bucket. I'm picking up pieces as I go, right? So the Bunting side of my family, I found a descendant to Elder William Bunting. And he used to be a former employee of mine, of course, part of the Middle and Great Northern, joint as with the William Marriott on top. And then everybody starts to ask questions, if you know what I mean. And I kept in contact with David Bunting, obviously. God bless him. He's dead now and deceased. This is why I said the Cossey and the Bunting connection has a lot to do with my family and also connected wise. And it wasn't no joke. You know, hard times. We lost a Bunting. I mean, we lost a Cossey to begin with. Then a Bunting came later, and then it all adds up with David Bunting. That was the last one I met. So if you really look at it, what you see in the Thomas franchise, I was doing a lot of outgoing material, right? Tracing down my family, learning about my heritage, learning my background, etc. on top. Everybody thinks it's all, you know what I mean? So basically, I said, look, with all that being said and done, with Elder William Bunting gone, it left with his son, David, which I would say was the first gen Percy. Now, Percy, well, I call David Percy. Why? Because he was a Bunting, you see, and he was part of Herbert's storyline. So it was my great uncle's storyline to him, right? So realistically, David and I kept in contact for a very, very short time, or brief time, right? Well, I'm doing this very, very seriously and all to it in one swing. I'm now going to read you a letter that came, right? Right? This came to me, right? Directly. And when David Bunting was not very well, he still kept in contact with me until he died, until he passed away. But I'm now going to read you a letter, personal letter, that I'm not, this is the one I can read to you in direct problems, right? Right? It says, Dear Sir Topham Hatt the Third, unfortunately we are writing with sad news to let you know that Percy had passed away on Friday the 23rd of April at 10 minutes past 7 in the evening. Due to his age and his health problems, he was finding daily life difficulty. So it was a happy release for him. He always enjoyed reminiscing about Herbert, my great uncle Herbert, and the railways. I hope you are keeping well. Best wishes from the descendants of the family. So, logically, what happened then, without you realizing, that when things unfold in front of your eyes, or you got written material that you understand, right? You have to be realistic now because now This is how I know a lot of people know about my family, my friends, my connections, and so forth. Know who I could trust, who could I not trust. Herbert and Herbert had a full life himself, right? But due to that, the Cossey side of my family, my great uncle Herbert died in 2001 when I boarded the Norfolk Railway as a volunteer to begin with. Before they found out that I'm now a true blood Hatt, which they didn't expect. But anyway, that's a different story. But due to that, Herbert was the man that kept being really useful. No joke whatsoever. So every day that you think that the railways are safe, they're not always safe. Especially when you've got fast trains like the HS2s or everything else. In the end of the day, you've got my great uncles that need to be well respected because they all link back to the Hatt family. Why? Herbert married Molly, Percy married to his family. So it keeps the chain going through that chain and the list and all everything else. But everything ties to every area that I've been through. I'm giving you all the facts, all in the bucket, and now you realise it's all unfolding in the correct way from the 19th of October 1934 all the way forward for them. In the day, when my great uncle Herbert, as example, he did his job right down to the core. No problems, no buts whatsoever. Got to the job he was meant to be doing. You know, he was like the jokey young man, you can cocky as well on top that you will ever know. But to be honest with you see, we always try and tell you it was happening unfoldedly in front of you. Just acknowledge it's been unfolded as it was, as it's stated. But in the day, we have our ups, we have our downs. We also have our cross the line, do not cross the line department. We know exactly what should be right from wrong. Acknowledge that why the Bunting family got a lot to do it, I said. It's to do that the Bunting family was married by one of their actual say family friend, then friend becomes family. In the day, it's all about logic. The elder William Bunting married one of the Cossey side family. That's how they got blood connected in the first place. So in the day, you had Herbert, you had Robert, then you have basically got Elder William Bunting and then David Bunting. And they all blood linked to the Hatt family. Why? Because Herbert married Molly, which you can watch in season 7, Molly's Special Special. So work it out. It played out right, and it also corrected most of the timeline unfolded. So look what I'm doing, working my butt off to the ends of the earth. But it shows the proof. It's true story, no joke whatsoever. Thank you very much.